Hey there, folks. Santee at the Arizona Ghost Raiders here. We got mail. Santee, can you give us a little more info on whiskey back then? A few of you. Whiskey in the Old West, Part 2. Yeah. Yeah, we can do that.
What do you want?
I haven't had a drink of whiskey or slept in the bed in 10 days. Give me a bottle.
7 years ago, I put out a video called Whiskey in the Old West. Since that episode, I've learned some things and have more to add. So, Part 2. The Transcontinental Railroad was helping limber up the wild frontier. Premium bottled booze was being loaded on train cars and appearing in even the small towns dotting the western landscape. Drinking establishments could be serving up pretty good selections. Wine, beer, gin, rum, mezcal,
Mighty fine liquor. What do you call it? Rub of the brush. Go on.
etc. I have a video about mixed drinks which opened a lot of our eyes. However, Hollywood would have us believe it was primarily
whiskey.
It was a common drink in America going back to the original colonies. Its origins actually go back to Britain, where people were even writing songs about it.
Cigarettes and whiskey and wild, wild women.
Available grains like corn and rye allowed folks to make their own alcohol and add color and flavoring. That was good considering the only major producing distilleries in America at the time were not in the western states. So, if your shipment of top shelf bourbon or rye didn't arrive, there was always Cousin Erasmus and his still. Distilleries were becoming all the rage, and there were a lot of whiskey choices. Stagecoach and Pony Express mogul Ben Holliday opened a distillery in Weston, Missouri in 1856 that is on the National Registry of Historic Places. You might wonder how saloon owners out west found out about different whiskey brands. Well, there were traveling whiskey salesmen.
He's a whiskey drummer.
A famous one was Julius Kessler, who in the 1870s carried his stock on the back of burros and supplied establishments in mining towns like Leadville, Colorado. Kessler is still a brand today, by the way. There is one myth that keeps coming up I'd like to squash. Trading a bullet for a serving of whiskey is how it got the name shot. The idea being that they were both 12 cents back then. All the ideas on the origin of the term shot date back way before the Old West. Not to mention, none of them had anything to do with firearm ammunition. Also, a .45 cartridge back then didn't cost 12 cents. If that were the case, one cylinder full would be almost a half a day's wages for many laborers.
Whiskey, quick.
We joke about medicinal whiskey back in the Old West, but this really was a thing. I found a couple of labels for bottles of the stuff. Many of these were marked as patented medicines, but there was no regulation back then. Also, there weren't a lot of medicinal cures for ailments, so a strong dose of Who Hit John would take the pain away.
If that's that old Tennessee sour mash, put a little in there. Good for my rheumatism.
Alcohol was an antiseptic, so it makes sense people would keep some around.
Don't spill none of that liquor, son. It eats right into the bar.
Whiskey gets its amber color from the barrels it's aged in. Here to tell you more on that is John, a fellow YouTuber and professional in the field of spirits.
Hello everybody, welcome to Distilled, Brewed, and Reviewed. My name is John. On this channel I review everything that has anything to do with alcohol and coffee. And what I'd like to talk about right now is how charring a barrel affects the flavor of the whiskey, in this case bourbon whiskey, that goes into it. When you char a barrel, you're increasing the surface area of the inside of that barrel. You're bringing the sugars closer to the surface. You're changing some compounds in the wood, bringing out such flavors as toffee, caramel, and vanilla. 100% of the color and 70% of the flavor comes from charring that barrel. There are 4 levels of char, and each one of them has its benefits. So different distillers use different levels. The first one to ever char a barrel, and he was doing it, we know, in 1789, was Elijah Craig. They're not sure how he discovered it, but he spent most of his life figuring out how to perfect it. They think it may have been that he had a fire and it affected some of his barrels, and instead of discarding them, he just used them anyway after they were charred and discovered the benefits of that charring. Some people think he was using barrels that had held other objects previously, such as pickles or fish, and he wanted to get that smell and taste out of it, so he charred it. Either way, Elijah Craig was the first one to do it, and it's been a great thing for bourbon.
The link to John's channel will be in the description field below. Please check him out. The takeaway here is that whiskey was a popular thing in the Old West. Nevertheless, the other alcohols we know and love were also sitting in bottles on that bar shelf. Now, if we could just go back in time and do some taste tests. Well, folks, that's it for another episode. Thanks for watching. As always, please like, share, and subscribe. And we'll see you on down the trail.
Rub of the brush. Rub of the brush.